Topic here is gay Asian men, which comes from this reading, Asian Girls Are Prettier, which pretty much looks at gay Asian men and their struggles with homosexuality. So the reason why I selected this piece here is I think you start to see some overlap with race as well as gay rights. Now, we have to have some sort of understanding of race as a social construct. So the issue of whether or not race is about biology, we have you know, no clear consensus on this because there's only one race, the human race. So for the most part, this is going to be about social constructs. So we just have to make sure we have that understanding. So I'm starting off with this true or false question. Asian women being exotic, is that an issue? Is that something that is believed? Is there something different in their build? And how do you capitalize on your attributes to attract someone you are interested in, which seems to be one of the focus points of this particular reading. What if the person is a different race or of a cultural group? So how can the person play to their strengths depending on their race, culture? So I'm asking you here to compare the two. If I ask the question, which one is more manly, what would be your reason for arguing this person or this person? So you want to think about that. And for prior classes, we know that we've used this particular image as a stereotypical image for masculinity. And the question here is whether or not we think of Asian males in the same way. Um, let's see what the next slide here has to offer. Okay, let's go down. So that is actually what the full image of the individual here. So I'm kind of trying to set you up here. But again, these are issues that are addressed in the readings, not my own personal views here. So if we're going to buy into the argument that there are biological differences with regard to race, what then does that say about Asian men? So the reading is going to want you to look at the lack of body hair, and they are also going to look at the physical build of the um, gay Asian men, and they're going to argue that the gay Asian male has a more female physical characteristic in comparison to other racial groups, which is why I asked this particular question here about Asian women being exotic and playing to your strengths. So pretty much what the article is arguing is that gay Asian men, because they have a couple of things working against them within the gay community, they have to kind of play to their strengths. So how do they go about doing that? Well, if we take a look at the reading here, it says that being both gay and Asian present three challenges. The stigma of race from the larger society, so that's looking at America and how America views Asian men or Asians in general. Is it a positive portrayal or a negative? So the reading wants you to come with the understanding that it's a negative view. So we have stigma one, which is we're dealing with the struggle of being what it means to be Asian in America. Second, they must manage the stigma of homosexuality from the larger society and the Asian community. So two, not only are they struggling with being Asian, but they are also struggling with being gay. So it's like they have two negatives. They're starting out with the fact that they're Asian, but also you have the issue of them being a homosexual. And how is the rest of the Asian community going to view them? Are they going to view gay Asian men as equal? Are they going to view them as inferior? So now this gets to the point where we're looking at Asian men in general. So Asian men are discriminated against. That's the negative by society. And so how are they going to now treat their gay Asian male? Are they going to view them as superior because they feel that these individuals have two negatives, whereas just being Asian has one? So that's where they're going with that particular section. 3. The gay Asian men must learn to manage the stigma of race once more in the gay community. So now it's about them being homosexuals within the gay community as Asians. So we have, let's say, 3 gay males in the Asian or the gay community. One is Asian, one is white, let's say one is black, and let's take one, say this individual is a Puerto Rican. So how is the gay community going to view? Is there a hierarchy within the gay community amongst them? And at what point is race playing a factor in um, blurring the lines within the gay community, because race is now starting to overlap with homosexuality and what it means to be gay within the community. So the reading, in trying to manage the stigma of race, gay Asian men employ stigma management strategies used by members of other stigmatized groups, such as passing, distancing, and affiliating. So here we're looking at responses in that particular situation, and they bring up the issue of hypermasculinity. So you come to find out that in this reading, a couple of things, let's read a little bit more here. Have been two studies of how gay Asian men respond to racial stigmatization in the gay community. Rejection of the gay white man as a result of racism rather than their own physical shortcomings. Just looking at the underlined sections. Hypermasculinization comes up again, can be traced back to the 70s. So ultimately what they want you to think about, and a lot of it is pretty much summed up in this section. At the language here. For the gay white man to be defined as masculine, or at least define themselves masculine, another group must be defined as feminine. Keep in mind we are talking within the gay community. So here, while white men have masculine underwear parties, where guys take off their shirts and expose ripping stomach muscles. So now we're at something called a party, where the gay males are being asked to remove articles of clothing. So what is going to happen when some of the men are extremely muscular? Which one is going to be given some sort of power or be viewed as the superior, which is kind of what's going on here. And now we're talking about this situation. Miss Asia beauty pageants with Asian men dressing in drag, badly miming the words of Whitney Houston. It's ultimately where they're going with this. Within the gay community, gay Asian men, because this is why I was asking and commenting before about the biology, about the build. If we buy into the argument that race means something and race has some sort of biological connection, so what do we know about the Asian male? The Asian male might be thinner, they might lack body hair, and they might have, in comparison to other gay males, they might have more of a feminine look just because of their physical build racially. I'm not arguing that this is correct. This is simply what is in the reading here. And so the author is going to then argue that the gay Asian male plays to their strength. And what do they do within the gay community? Well, they play to their strengths and they play the role of the female. And they impersonate females, and they are pretty good at the task. And they here talk about participating in drag queen shows, and there's somewhere in the reading that talks about how you probably don't want to challenge a gay Asian male in a drag queen, because if the goal is to look more like a female because of the physical build of the Asian male, the gay Asian male, they're probably going to be able to play that particular role. Like if we looked at these two images here and I just asked you which one is more masculine and which one is more feminine, which of the two, if these are your only two options, which one would you go with? And if you're going with this one, then you have some sort of understanding of male and female and what those social constructs and those behaviors are supposed to be like. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that that's probably why you're going with that particular issue. Here I just bring up the definition of transgender, because in the reading, they are going to look at drag queen contests and how the gay Asian male is able to win in these particular contests. Why? Because they are able to play the part of looking like a female more so than other racial groups, primarily because of the physical build of the Asian male.